Hello there, welcome to episode 84 of Never Mind the Bullens. It's your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. I'm Mike Peters. Now then, I mean, the old adage of a week is a long time in politics. Well, a week is a very long time in the world of Everton, and a month seems like an eon. It's been an extraordinary few weeks, so let's just try and, cast our minds back to the beginning of January and where we were at in terms of that dreadful defeat at home to Brighton. There was obvious disharmony, acrimony, every which way you looked. And here we are a month on, and the whole sort of feeling around the club has completely changed after an absolutely ridiculously tumultuous period, which has culminated in Frank Lampard being announced as the new manager. I was going to record this on Saturday when the announcement broke, obviously late on Friday night, but I thought, no, best wait, because it'll be out of date before I've even actually sort of got it onto the internet, with the transfer window sort of closing. I just wanted to see if he did any business. Well, he has. Now, the old adage of also, just to quote the maxims as we go along here, of, no one wants to see how the sausage is made. Well, we've seen how the sausage has been made with Everton in quite stark relief over the past few weeks, and it's been horrifying to watch, as we love the club, with those protests last week. And I must just say, while obviously the passion of Evertonians can never be dimmed, some of the examples of it and the way that passion has been coming out over the last few weeks is just unacceptable. We have to get away from that. We're better than that as a club, and we have to set examples to ourselves. It's down to supporters. And again, it's the same with any club, and it's an easy thing to say. It is a minority, but those minority are the ones that are getting the headlines. And in this world of this age of social media and rolling news and all the rest of it, that stuff's going to get picked up on. There is absolutely no excuse for defacing the ground. The ground is a symbol. It's our cathedral as Evertonians, and defacing it for whatever reasons, to protest against, the chairman or what have you. Protesting against the chairman is absolutely fine on one thing. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but doing it in that way by defacing the place that we go to be together as Evertonians, to gather, I just defies any sense at all for me. And anybody that knows anybody that's done that, just call them out and just don't stand for it. There were 100 people there walking up Bullens Road in that protest, and there should have been 99 of them saying to the idiot that was actually putting the defacing the graffiti on the ground, no, stop it, mate, you're letting us down, you're making us a laughing stock. To a degree, the hierarchy of the club have made us a laughing stock over the past few weeks, and I now think we can remove the palms from our faces as we head into February, with an awful lot of football to play, and a sort of really a rejuvenated squad. And when you look at actually the signings that we've made over the past few weeks, in terms of Mykolenko and Nathan Patterson, 2 new fullbacks, good bit of business in terms of getting them in and Luca Dean out. Mykolenko obviously unproven, Nathan Patterson very highly regarded. We've not seen him yet. Obviously bringing in Anwar El Ghazi, good player. Again, not seen him as yet because of obviously with playing Aston Villa. And now Donny van der Beek and Dele Alli as well. I mean, there's huge excitement about these signings. A number of Man United fans who are friends of mine messaging me saying, that you've got a real player there. And I said, I can't understand why he's not being given an opportunity at Manchester United, but hopefully Everton will be the beneficiaries of him really having a point to prove that he can cut it in the Premier League. Dele Alli, of course, a lad that was in England regular, was scoring goals for fun. I know we saw them often enough at Goodison. He scored loads of goals against us down the years. And a real goal-scoring midfielder, and yet a guy that's his career's just gone off the rails completely, but still a lot to offer. He's only 25, let's not forget. So there's huge potential in that deal, and we've cunningly circumvented the loan system with that one. That is a really good bit of negotiating. Whoever was responsible for that one, getting him on a free 10 million once he plays 20 games, which he inevitably will. And with that heavily incentivised deal, there's no way that deal's going to cost us 40 million in the end. It's just not going to happen. But a player, an England international, who can absolutely get back into the squad. I mean, look at what happened with Jesse Lingard when he went to West Ham last season, and how he was rejuvenated there. He's not become a bad player overnight. Dele Alli is the old adage of I'm 3 for 3 there. That's the hat trick of form is temporary, class is permanent. But he's obviously gone very stale at Tottenham, particularly since Pochettino went. Obviously, that was the start of his slide, and just didn't work with Mourinho or Nuno Espirito Santo or Conte. And we probably should have moved 6-12 months ago didn't. And we're ultimately the beneficiaries of that. And we particularly needed the midfield reinforcements with Abdoulaye Doucouré and Fabien Delph being out now for a month. I mean, that's a big, big blow. But actually, when you look at the players that we've got now, there is a bit of depth there. There's definitely more options off the bench, which we've been crying out for. It's just a case of, right, the way we're going to play over the next few weeks. So, the four midfielders that were already there and fit, in terms of Alan, Jean-Philippe Gbamin, Andre Gomez and Tyler Onyango. Obviously, Onyango very much unproven. Are going to have a lot of work to do, but they will be supplemented by Van der Beek and Dele Alli, who are both fit. All right. Ali might need a bit of match sharpness, but Van der Beek saying, I'm ready to go, lads. And I have no doubt that they will feature against Newcastle next Tuesday. The transfer window, in terms of, you look at it just as ins and outs and say, well, actually, we've done pretty well here. This has been a really successful window, and it makes me harks back sort of 10 years, in actual fact, to when we, on the last day of the 2012 window, and we were thinking, right, hang on, we're struggling here. We need players. We had Dennis Strakwalersi, God love him, up front for 6 months and just, huffing and puffing, but not really adding a bit of quality. And then suddenly we signed Nikica Jelavic, and we got Stephen Pienaar back, and we got Louis Saha out, all in the same day. And it was a brilliant bit of business, and kicked us on to having a really good end to that season in terms of getting to the FA Cup semi-final. Jelavic scoring goals, we won games, and getting ourselves up to 7th after a season that was just sort of meandering a little bit, that particular instance. This, obviously, we need a much more stark response and change of fortunes, but there's an awful lot of football to be played. And obviously those games that we lost over Christmas, when we had the 3 games postponed against Burnley, Leicester, which is obviously now postponed twice, and also Newcastle as well, are going to be absolutely crucial. And there's a huge amount of football for Frank Lampard to manage between now and the end of the season. As regards his appointment, I think he's absolutely the best candidate that was available to us. And think in terms of ticking the boxes, finally sanity has prevailed. And the Vitor Pereira interview, whether that's done for him or certainly not aided his cause, but obviously he wasn't the man. It's not a case of, I don't think, that Evertonians wanted him. It's just we didn't want him under these circumstances, because you're just thinking we're in a real bind at the minute, really struggling for form. Obviously, players completely devoid of confidence, and the whole thing needs a shake up and a calmness, and a much more sort of I suppose softly approach in one sense, in terms of getting the players on side and just geeing them up and encouraging them. And I'm not quite sure that he was the man that was going to be able to achieve that. The fact that Frank Lampard, the coaching staff he's brought in with him, like Paul Clement and the people he's bringing in around him, is terrific. Paul Clement's proven as an assistant manager. He's did a reasonable job when he was manager, particularly at Swansea for that first few months. Got them, kept them up in the league. Obviously didn't quite end very well for him. I think his last game as Swansea manager was at Goodison, I think, if memory serves me correctly, and he got sacked after a 3-1 defeat. But that doesn't negate his qualities as a coach. And I've no doubt that he will be a massive asset to the team. And the fact that Frank Lampard has been very careful about which job he takes next, getting the right backroom staff ready for him, together and ready to go when that opportunity has presented itself, says to me, a young, methodical, forward-thinking coach who's worked under some of the best managers of the last 25 years, Jose Mourinho, obviously, Carlo Ancelotti, and the ilk. So the two that spring to mind straight away. Obviously, he's won everything in the game, has served his apprenticeship. Completely understand why Wayne Rooney said no to being interviewed. Saw Phil Jagielka on Sky Sports News saying that it's probably a bit soon for him, which Rooney's not daft. Why take the job on now under very difficult circumstances? Wait, I'm sure he'll be an Everton manager of the future. I said that on this podcast in the most recent episode. So we've got definitely who the best man for the job. What Duncan Ferguson's role in that is going to be going forward, it remains to be seen, because this is now a couple of times he's been overlooked for the big job. I think he'll be here till the end of the season, and then I think he will go. If he wants to truly be Everton manager, he has to go away, cut his teeth as a manager in the top job somewhere else. I think it'd be sad for him to go, but I think it's necessary if he wants to come back at some point in the future. But young English hungry coaches want everything in the game, will be instantly respected by the players, and hopefully it will convince some of those who might have been getting a bit twitchy, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Jordan Pickford, etc., to say, right, hang on, we'll give this time now. We see a real project. We want to be part of this, playing for somebody of Frank Lampard's calibre. And almost overnight, it puts a plug in that sort of geyser of mutiny that there was around the club, and will bring unity together. It will satiate everybody, I think. Even those who are maybe slightly unconvinced about Frank Lampard as yet. I think he got a slightly rough deal at Chelsea, although probably they were vindicated in sacking him in the end, because obviously I don't think they'd have won the Champions League with him in charge. Thomas Tuchel is an outstanding coach and has proved that already. But as regards who we could have got, I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with it, as I'm sure most Evertonians are, and hopefully now it's definitely a guy that we will get behind. We'll give him time. No good at the end of the season, irrespective of what happens, us turning around and saying, right, that's it, we've got to get rid of him. And interesting to see what role Tim Cahill will play in the next sort of bit of the club. Also good to see Farhad Moshiri coming out again and talking to the fans through the club channels. I know he's Twitter to Jim White a little bit in the past week, but coming out and talking to the fans, and that they finally seem to be starting to listen to the fans who ultimately want the best for the club. We're not always going to get it right, but he's not always going to get it right, but we have to start getting it more right than wrong from now on. And that game against Leeds, I'm not going to the Brentford game. I decided before all of this, I thought, no, DJing, working, and I'm slightly regretting it now, but looking forward to the Leeds game. First league game back with those players that obviously we can't have. We've got Donny van der Beek, and I think Dele Alli's cup tied as well, so they won't be available for that game, but their first home game against Leeds a week on Saturday will be absolutely fantastic. Of that there is no doubt. So, if you want to peculiar in years to come, if historians want to go and sort of have and I'm not suggesting this in any way is the podcast of record for Everton, but if you want a sort of a little window into how chaotic the last few weeks have been, then listen to the last 3 or 4 episodes of this podcast, starting with the one after the Brighton game, because it just shows where we are at, and how quickly things can change, and what a roller coaster, more so than I can ever really remember it being to be an Evertonian. But hopefully it's now onwards, and more importantly upwards up the league, with a lot of sort of big games to come, starting with Newcastle next Tuesday, an absolutely vital game. And I have no doubt that if we look at the games that we've got against the likes of Burnley away, Newcastle both away and at home, there are Leeds obviously at home a week on Saturday, we can really quickly start to gain points if Frank Lampard galvanises the team and starts to move up the table. Fingers crossed. That's all we can ask for, isn't it? As always, get in touch at NMTVPod on Twitter, nmtvpod@gmail.com on the email, or you can leave me a little voice note in the description to the podcast. This has been a Top Content production, and as always, until the next time, come on you Blues.